So the big question is this: how do voiceover artists like us who are looking to take our careers to the next level, but don't buy into the claims of needing expensive equipment and demos, start bringing in new clients? How do you follow a clear path to changing your voiceover side hustle into your full-time job and stick it to those that said you couldn't? Those are the questions, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Earl Hall, and welcome to In the Booth with Earl Hall, the leading edge of voiceover. Hey, folks. Hey, we got a guest with us today. Everybody sees Will Stoff here with me today, voiceover artist extraordinaire. Welcome, man. Welcome, Will, to the show.
Thank you, Earl. I appreciate you having me on here. It's been a while since we've chatted online. So
this is your second time here. On the show, the brand new show now, In the Booth with Earl Hall, the leading edge of voiceover. We had, on the thread this morning, like starting at about 6 a.m., I think it was.
Yeah.
The whole thing about the experience you are now experiencing dealing with Fiverr and kind of trying to overcome some of those things. And that thread is just building and building and building with more and more content. And it's like, we need to talk about this, I was so thankful when I reached out to you this morning, say, hey, why don't we come on and talk about this? You were available and agreeable to doing that. Why don't you bring us up to speed a little bit here? Because you're one of the folks and you're on the leading edge of this thing. And this is the whole reason why I'm talking about the leading edge. And I talked a little bit about this with Ben Wake this morning. Everybody, I think, has seen his booth by now. From the live stream. I talked to him this morning before he did that. And I was like, hey, you need to go on and do a live stream. You need to show folks this thing. And I was telling him, and I'm telling you the same thing, and many others that are watching this, all of us are on this leading edge right now. We have looked to the folks that we may consider above us for a while now. And we're now on the leading edge. It's not going to be too long before everyone's looking to us the same way that we've looked to others. And I look at you as one of the folks on this leading edge with, in particularly, the things that you've been able to accomplish and do on Fiverr have been simply amazing to me. But that thread this morning, caused a lot of traction and a lot of interaction from the experience that you're having. Why don't you bring us up to speed a little bit here? What happened on Fiverr?
Well, just out of the blue, I got a message that said that you have a term of service warning against you. Mm-hmm. It was considered a general terms of service warning against you. It offered me no specifics. I had to contact one of their customer service reps and go to their contact us and fill out a form and find out what's going on. Right. And they really didn't give me any information back. And then finally, I had one vague idea of one person that told me that sharing buyers' information publicly is against the term of service. And it was really strange because I've been on Fiverr a long time. I've been on social media a long time. Like you, I have gone through tons of YouTube videos of different voiceover artists, people that have been on Fiverr, where they would publicly use samples of their work. Whether that's videos, whether that's voice work, as samples, or even putting on their website. And I would gather to say that if you're putting a bunch of samples of work that you've already done, that you've already performed, most of this stuff is public. Right. It's not like, hey, this is an audio thing that I want nobody to know about. Usually they come to me and they're spending money and they're either putting this on television or radio or on their website, so it's a public forum. And in the back of your mind, the average person with a brain in their head would think that, this is something that I want you doing because it gives me more exposure too, because you are highlighting my work here with what you're doing as you are demonstrating that. But for somehow I got this message, and I'm going to be honest with you, and maybe I'm being too honest here, I have gotten too serious terms of service warnings before, and it was
Oh, wow.
dumb stuff that I've done. The
Okay.
first one that I did, I just got angry at one buyer who was being a real jerk, and I just kind of lost my cool, and I deserved that one big time. The other one was something that I wasn't aware of, and it was a nuanced thing, and, I argued back and forth about getting this, and I was 2, and I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe number 3, it's over. And so when I received this, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is my 3rd one. I am doomed. They're going to kick me off this platform. There's talk about 3 strikes you're out, but apparently that's not the case. And for some reason, this is considered a general term of service warning. So because a serious term of service warning will demote you automatically. And I've had that where I'm at level 2, boom, you're at level 1 because of this term of service warning. If you get too many, you're going to get kicked off. So, I mean, and that's my own fault. And I have part of me, I'm a passionate guy. I've been, at times in my life, I've been accused of being a hothead, and I am guilty as charged. All right. I've been in, in my career in radio, I've been in a general manager's office with them throwing staplers at me and,
oh my gosh,
just yelling back. That just comes with it. And I'm finding out, hey, that's just part of, that's part of your resume in radio, right? But with that said, I put this on the forum, and, and one of the moderators who I've been in contact with quite a bit has said, this could be something where it's either a competitor playing a dirty trick on you or a real buyer. But usually buyers who don't want that, they contact you first and they're like, hey, listen, I don't want this public. I'll give you an example. I did a whole Trump impression with a app that's coming out, and they didn't want it public. So they're like, hey, please don't, put any of your sample work anywhere until this is public. So that is totally legit.
Sure.
So it's the type of thing where I believe that I've learned, and I think, you have mentioned this before, is you've got to be ready and willing to pull out of these forums. And especially if it's become this has become the main source of my income. That should be a sign to me, instead of saying, oh, keep going. It should be a sign to me that says, all right, you better start looking at other revenue sources. Especially your own, like you have mentioned before, your own brand, your own website. You've got to create those engines, and like you have mentioned before, this has to be a supplemental thing. It would be great if it was a supplemental thing of $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year. I'll go for that any day, but it can't be the main thing because of the nature of how these things are put together. You don't control it,
right? So. And it's excuse me, I would hate to see, and I have seen this before, where businesses are created on the backs of one client, one huge client that is paying them a bunch of money. And then you've got to ask yourself the question, what happens if that client goes out of business? I mean, I remember back during the days when I was running my engineering firm, Harley Davidson was one of my major clients. Well, Harley Davidson closed. I mean, this is the home of Harley Davidson here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And back in about 2009, 8 or 9, they shut down 2 of the 3 plants that they had. And so I lost revenue from that. And then you would hear horror stories from some of like suppliers, of Harley, saying that they had to go out of business because they couldn't sell enough of their product to Harley. Wow. So it's like, if you're using one source of income, let's just say Fiverr, obviously you've got to have the mindset to know that the people that you do work for on Fiverr are not your clients. They're Fiverr's clients.
Yep.
You are a service provider. You are just someone that they allow to offer your services to their clients. And I think that's a big leap for people to make in their mind, to really get that and understand that, because it's uncomfortable to come to that realization. It's a little bit disheartening, a little bit uncomfortable with that. But I think, even like I said in the post, any of these freelance sites, Fiverr, Upwork, any of them, you have no idea what's going on behind the scenes or behind the closed doors. They could close tomorrow. Right. They could decide to opt to close, go out of business, file bankruptcy or whatever, and be gone with no explanation or anything like that. We're talking about the internet, the World Wide Web. You can come and go as you please, with that, but we never know what's going on behind the scenes. And of course, I'm not preaching doom and gloom here about Fiverr or anyone else, but the possibility is always there. And if you don't control your own client base, then the threat is always there. And now I encourage people to use things like Fiverr, to use things like Upwork and the other freelance sites like freelancer.com and Bodago and all these other sites. Shucks, even voices.com for Christ's sake. But they're not ours. It's just like Facebook. Facebook is not our platform. Yeah. It's not yours. You're just allowed to use it for free, thank God, but it's not yours. And people build businesses on the backs of these platforms without having anything set up so that they can just do this on their own.
Right. And it's interesting, Earl, because I know that you've been preaching this, and I actually have been preaching this too, about using your own platform, but now I'm really living it because something is really hot with me right now with Fiverr. And then all of a sudden the natural inclination is just to go all in, put your chips all in on the board. Yeah. Right. And I think from my experience too, before getting into voice work, I was doing a lot of internet marketing and learning about different things on the internet and whatnot. And there was one couple that is right now very, very, very successful. They made like $100,000 in 1 month with what they're doing. And they're really getting into the Millionaires Club very soon. With what they're doing. But one of the things that I saw with them in a lot of their training, I'm not trying to promote them or anything like that. I'm just giving you as an example, is that because I work very closely with them, is that they would use different platforms with social media to get leads, to get to get clients, to get orders, all those different things. And they would come up with a strategy. And they had an awesome Instagram strategy at one point in time where there was a lot of different ways that you can build Instagram profiles, and then you could really make them grow. And there was a couple of different things that were being offered out there of certain apps that were being used. All of a sudden, out of the blue, Instagram shut all that down, and now it's part of Facebook as well. So that avenue was gone with them, but they always kept in their mind, they always kept saying, you have got to build your platform. It has to be your website. At the end of the day, what really matters is who's on your email list. Okay. Who have you gotten that is yours, that is your clients that you're going nowhere with. And I'll give you another example that's close to home. My sister, probably about 10 years ago, she's gone through different phases with this, but she was selling children's clothes on her fan page, and she was making about $100,000 a year. But now the thing is that so much has changed in that period of time with fan pages. Now, if you really want to do business on your fan page, you better be doing Facebook ads, because that's where Facebook is pushing it. It's like, you're not going to get all this traction and love, unless you're buying the Facebook ads. So a lot of this stuff moves and shifts, and the ground can shift at any given moment. So, like the Bible verse, build your house upon a rock, don't build it on the sand. And I'm telling you, these platforms can be great, but they are shifting sand, and a storm's coming. So,
and the thing about that is not to sit around and worry or complain about it, because the one thing is always going to be constant. These things are going to change because you don't own them. They're not yours. We have the ability to use them. Like I said, we're talking about Facebook. We have the ability to use that for free, but Mark Zuckerberg owns that. He can make an algorithm change that will shut you down, and make you play by different rules. And so, I had this saying, especially earlier in the year, you've got to play in the ecosystem that you're in and be willing to live by the rules, because you don't make them. You don't know when they're going to change. You have absolutely no warning they're going to change. They just change.
Right.
Absolutely. So when you're in the process of developing a career in voiceover, sure, it's great to use these sites. I use these sites. I will always use these sites for as long as they're available, with the understanding that it's not mine and I've got to play by their rules.
Mhm.
Why do you think Fiverr makes it so that you can't contact the sellers off of Fiverr or the buyers off of Fiverr? Why do you think that it's theirs? It's